Hello world, we are live. Welcome to a very late September / early October edition of the Laravel Worldwide Meetup. My name is Dan Sapelsa. I'm a developer at Vehicle, and along with my co-host Margaret Tavares, we're thrilled to once again bring you some exciting information being shared from a member of the Laravel community. Speaking of my co-host Margaret, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty great, Dan. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. Sadly, our summer has drawn to a close here in Canada, but it's been an especially nice fall for weather, so I've been enjoying that. And as always, there's lots going on in the Laravel community to be excited about. And today's talk and the topic of today's talk is no different. So very much looking forward to that. And so before we get started, before we bring James in, we've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of about some stuff going on in the community. So what do we have going on here, Margaret?
Great. Thanks, Dan, and welcome everybody that's returning, and welcome to anyone that's new. For some resources that we got going on, some great ones to be aware of. There's Laravel News, if you haven't heard about them, ran by Eric Barnes and his team. They have a weekly email newsletter, and you can check them out at laravelnews.com. And they also have a Laravel News podcast as well, ran by Jake Bennett and Michael Drinda, where they discuss all the latest Laravel releases in the last week. They have tutorials, and they talk about what's happening in the Laravel community. If you haven't heard about the Laravel podcast, it's ran by Matt Stauffer. So for this season, Matt seems to have a different member from the Laravel team for each episode. So make sure to check them out at laravelpodcast.com. And if you are somebody who's looking to hire a Laravel developer or post a job about some Laravel work, and really for all your Laravel job needs, you can take a look at larajobs.com. You can take a look and see who's posting any jobs if you're looking for some Laravel work. And then one thing that we want to do is highlight some companies that we've been talking to in the community that are also looking for some Laravel developers. You can check out Resource Innovations, Roofer, and Tukios for some openings as well. And you can take a look and see some more information about those job offers in the description below on the YouTube link. Laracast is another great resource to be aware of. So big thank you to Jeffrey Way for running this awesome resource for anyone looking to build their Laravel skills and have a platform to learn with others in the Laravel community. So check out laracast.com if you want to learn some Laravel. As for some resources to take a look about some meetups that are happening all over the world, you can take a look at community.laravel.com. So this is a page where you can talk about an event or meetup that you have. You can share with the Laravel team, and they can put it on this page for you. So make sure to check out this link there. Also, Laravel wants to shine a light on developers from all parts of the community. So whether you're just starting out with Laravel, if you're building cool things with Laravel, or working quietly behind the scenes, if Laravel has helped you create something that you're proud of, the community would love to hear it. So you can check it out at laravel.com/stories. You can take a look and answer some of Taylor's questions, and the Laravel team would love to share it. We also want to say a big thank you to the host for Laravel Worldwide Meetup, which is Vehicle. They have a great team of developers. And so if you're looking for a really great team to help you out with any Laravel problem, you can contact them at vehicle.com or go at vehicle.com. We also have a giveaway, so make sure to sign up. We are running this giveaway until October 14th. All you got to do is scan that QR code, and you'll receive all the details, and we'll announce the winner to win one of any JetBrains IDE. So thanks to them as well for sponsoring. All right, and now I'm going to pass it off to Dan to introduce our speaker.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. Our speaker today is a longtime Laravel community member, a longtime Laravel team member. Currently finds himself as the engineering team lead on the core services team at Laravel, with, among other things, have the responsibility of maintaining the Forge application, of which James is going to join us and have a chat about today and share some of the exciting new features and changes that the team's been working so hard on for months and months now. So without further ado, let's bring him in here. James, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Doing quite well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We were joking a little bit earlier when we were chatting that you've been on your press tour recently, as if you've just released a book or you have a movie coming out. I've seen you on the Laravel podcast, I think Laravel News. There's a great stream yesterday with Josh talking about some of the new changes in Forge. So we're excited to be part of your media tour, and excited to see what you have to show us today with the Forge changes. So thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It's been I've been meaning to do this for a long time. So it's nice that I finally get to do it with something that is so exciting.
Awesome. Cool. So the format today is maybe just slightly different than some of the other talks we've had. I think your plan here is no slides. You're just gonna kind of show us the Forge platform and walk us through how you kind of use it. From the perspective too of someone who knows a lot about how it works and what it can do. So, chat, if you have questions that you want to ask, go ahead and post them in the chat. We'll either interject with them midway through as James is chatting and showing us some stuff if it's relevant, or we'll have a bit of a Q&A towards the end. So that's kind of the plan. And did I get that right, James?
Yeah, no script. We're just going to do it as if it's an in-person demo.
We'll do it live. All right, cool.
No better
If you
way.
want to go ahead and I think you maybe already have share your screen. Let's see.
Yeah.
There we go. So Margaret and myself will step backstage, and then we want to kind of maximize the real estate so everyone can see the platform. So you'll be able to hear the soothing tones of James Brooks, but we're going to take his camera off stage while he kind of walks us through the Forge platform. So without further ado, James, please take it away, and we'll chat shortly.
Thanks,
All right.
James.
Thank you very much. Hey, everyone. So as Dan and Margaret said, my name is James Brooks. I'm the engineering team lead at Laravel, one of the engineering team leads. As they said, I'm responsible for core services, which means that we look after Forge, Envoy, and Vapor. For the last year and a half, the team have been working on this new version of Laravel Forge. It's taken a long time to get where we are. And if you told me a year and a half ago, this is what we would be showing everybody and you would have access to, I wouldn't believe it. Some of the things that we've done are just incredible and were not in the original plan last year. So as Dan said, I'm going to kind of just do an in-person walkthrough of Forge as if we were at a booth at a Laracon or another conference. If you do have any questions, please do drop them in. I am going to just keep going through things. But if you want me to step back a bit and revisit something, let me know. If I've gone through it too quickly or you have questions, please do ask those questions and we will get to them. All right, so let's get started. This is the new Laravel Forge overview. And so if we look from the top down, we now have organizations. We're in the worldwide Meetup organization that I've already created for this demo. I can easily switch through my organizations as well. So I can see my personal projects, my Laravel ones, and of course this one. We can easily add new organizations. And the organization itself is now the top level resource within Forge. So previously you would sign up with your email address and your name, and then that would become the account and everything would be owned by you. One of the problems there was that people weren't able to leave a company and there was problems handing over accounts and access control, and it was quite complicated and messy. So the first thing we did a year ago was migrate everybody into these organizations and teams as well. So we've got rid of circles. Circles, they weren't very good. We knew that, you knew that. They're now replaced with teams. We have proper role-based authentication, and it's so much better. So let's keep going. Oh, sorry. The other thing to mention here is that organizations are now the billable entity. So you can sign up to Forge with one account and then have multiple organizations for different things, each billed at different levels. You might have your hobby plan for your personal stuff, your business plan for your agency or your actual business and your growth, wherever you need it. So that's pretty cool. It means that you get to organize your servers into different organizations, keep them separated, and also invite people into those organizations and actually share without needing to limit everything down via circles. So where are we? Let's have a look. So organizations, we have our overview, which gives us an overview of the servers, sites, and other things within that organization. We have servers. Let's go across the top. Servers, which is a whole list. Recipes, they're still recipes as we used to have, which are just bash scripts that you can run on your server at any time. We have a new usage panel that we'll come back to. Teams, so you can separate this organization out. Maybe you want your designers to have access, your infra, your DevOps, whatever. They can have different levels of access. And then your settings. These settings apply to the organization. So we have our general settings. We can have an organization name and the slug. So this is actually what's in the URL now. We have org worldwide meetup. We can now upload avatars to your organization, to your account, to your sites. So that's kind of nice. There's a bit more personality now across Forge itself. We have the ability to add members or users for business subscriptions. So you can invite somebody, maybe like Brian. We have roles now, which are owner, so he could share that entire organization with me. Admin rights, manager, developer, and viewer. So we could send this invite. I can see that here. It's all nice. We have these toasts. It feels just more complete now. This experience just is smoother. So we can keep going down. So we have these roles here, these predefined roles. We could go into the organization roles. Maybe we want to do something custom. Maybe we only want to create a role where they could create servers and everything except delete, and that's it. We could give that a name and a description that would appear in the custom roles, and we could assign members to these roles. We could assign roles to these members rather. You might also see, if you're an existing Forge customer, you might see that we've already created some custom roles for you. So when we migrated everybody into organizations and teams, we looked at the groups of permissions that people would often have, which is what made up these owner, admin, manager, developer, and viewer roles. But any kind of custom roles that didn't sit outside of those, we actually turned into these custom roles and assigned them back to the users. So their level of permission hasn't changed, but we've had to kind of group that and identify it into a custom role. And so if you see anything saying like custom and then a random string, that's what it is. You can actually let's create one, get a testing user, so they can organize, manage. You can actually edit this role now to change it from the custom role to whatever it is that you want. And of course, you can update members as well. So I could change the role of Ryan when he's accepted or remove him from the organization. So that's roles. We have security. So now the SSH keys that you would create on your account, we migrated them all into your organizations. Any SSH key that you add here will be added to any servers that you create, which means you would just be able to SSH in as normal. Again, you're not the billing entity. You're not the owner of these servers anymore. The organization is. So that's where these keys are now found. You can connect your source control providers here. You can also kind of set the name, the Git name, and email to associate commits with. This is particularly useful for applications such as Statamic, where it's flat file and you can push those changes back. And then you can add additional source control providers, Bitbucket, GitLab, and self-hosted GitLab. Bitbucket doesn't show here because I'm already connected. And we can see I'm connected with the Laravel Forge demo account. Moving on, server providers. So as usual, you can connect your Vultr, DigitalOcean, Akamai, AWS, and Hetzner accounts. These are our first-party integrations. You can still, of course, do a custom VPS as well, but you don't need a credential for that. And some of you will already know we've launched Laravel VPS. This credential is kind of implicitly available when you start a subscription with Forge. So you don't get to, you don't need to connect anything to it. It's just automatically there for you, which is why it's not in this list. You have your billing options here, which I'm not going to click on because my address is in there. So not doing that one on the internet. We have integrations, so you could connect your Envoy account. This is what will power the Envoy migration tool. So if you have a site that is configured in Envoy as a project on one server, you can bring this into Forge directly now. And the Sentry integration, so you can enable these, pick some, fill in these details, where it is you want to create the regions and that kind of thing, and that would be enabled. And then we have a global notification settings. So now if a deployment fails, you can actually set this default from the organization, and then all new sites would have this by default instead of your own email address. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the accounts. So that's organization settings. Account settings, quite simple, and should feel quite comfortable when you are, feel quite familiar when you've moved from cloud. So you have your name, email address. You can upload a profile photo. Previously, we used like Gravatar and those services, but they broke a lot, and sometimes images wouldn't load. Now we host all of those images. Of course, you could delete your account if you were to choose to do that. You have your password settings and security for two-factor authentication, recovery codes, browser sessions, SSH keys on an account level. So these are your personal SSH keys. Maybe you don't want to add your SSH key to the organization level. Account level SSH keys are like quick ways of adding a key to a server. So we'll get to that in a minute. And then as part of the new Forge, we have an entirely new API, and we have the ability now to create tokens with scopes. So you can limit down what an API token is actually able to do to your server and your sites. And better yet, there is now an expiration date on these tokens. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's create a new server, and we can start digging into some of the new features that we have in this area. So click New Server. You can see here I have Laravel VPS already selected. I could do a custom VPS, or of course I could create a new server provider from here now as well. We will call it Stunning Meadow. Sure, of course we could generate a new name. Summer Brussels it is. So we're going to create a new server with Laravel VPS. Now, Laravel VPS, for those of you who don't know, is Laravel's own VPS infrastructure powered by DigitalOcean. And there are some benefits to using Laravel VPS. The main one is that servers are instantly available, which I'll show you in a minute. You get consolidated billing. So you get your Forge subscription in Forge and your usage-based billing for these VPSs in Forge as well. These are currently 2 invoices because you could sign up for Forge on like the 7th, like it is today, but you would get billed for the VPS usage on the 1st. The other thing is that the other feature you get with Laravel VPS is the terminal. So that's kind of cool. We'll show you that in a minute. And one kind of unspoken benefit that's maybe not as obvious is that with Laravel VPS, you don't need to share your credentials to server providers anymore. It's all handled within Forge, and you get the same roles and members features available on Laravel VPS. You don't need to give people credentials anymore. All right. When we click continue, we now get to a similar looking form, or at least familiar, where we can select our server type. The same server type still exists, each with slightly different configurations. So we have an app server, which is as it says, a full stack server that includes everything you need to run applications, meaning a web server, database, cache, PHP, a web server, so that's Nginx and PHP, load balancers, just Nginx, database could be MySQL or Postgres, a cache server, which is Redis and Memcached, a worker server. So these are ones that you would connect different servers to, and that would be where your queues are running. And then a melee search server, which is searching. All right, for this, we're going to go for an app server. And Laravel VPS, because it's built on DigitalOcean, has the ability or the same region availability as DigitalOcean, Amsterdam, all the way through to Toronto. And then Laravel VPS, so the instantly available servers, which are available in 10 seconds or less, are within this Laravel managed private network, or VPC. And it has to be one of these 4 sizes: small, medium, large, or extra large. If you select any region for Laravel managed and it's one of these sizes, that server should be available within 10 seconds. Of course, I can also click show more sizes, and I could pick any other size that DigitalOcean offers. And one of the benefits I forgot to mention, actually, sorry, with VPS is that if you are on the growth plan on Forge, you get a 5% discount off the list prices. And if you are on the business plan, you get a 15% discount. So there's always a benefit to upgrading. For this, I'm going to go back to show fewer sizes. Let's go for a medium-sized server. I can see it's going to cost me $20 a month. I also can go into advanced settings, select the Ubuntu version. So for Laravel VPS, we want to make sure that we're always offering the most up-to-date options, the safest, the securest way of doing things. So that's why we're only giving you Ubuntu 24 at this time. PHP 8.4, but I could go back to PHP 8. And I can choose a database. Now, right now, Laravel VPS will offer MySQL 8 or Postgres 17. For this, I'm just going to stick with MySQL. All right. So I'm going to click Create Server, and a few things are going to happen to make this, magical things are going to happen to make the server available so quickly. But I'm not going to go into that. I don't want to spoil the magic sauce here, but I'm going to click Create Server, and let's see how long it takes roughly. But there you go. It's available. So I now have the option to download these credentials, the sudo password, the database password. A change that we have made here is that Forge would previously email you the sudo password. We don't do that anymore. We didn't like doing that originally. We got rid of it. Once upon a time, and had to bring it back. We've now made it a lot easier to get that password. And this is shown one time. So make sure you do download these as a text file. And once I've done that, I can say I've stored these credentials. And this server is now connected. It's set up. I've got the default scheduled jobs. You can see everything's been set up here. It is ready to go. Now, when you create a app or web server previously in Forge, you would get a default site. And that default site would respond to requests on an IP address. We've now removed that feature. There is no default site anymore. And the reason for that is that really that default site was in a weird state of configuration to work. And while you can still do that with a bit of manual effort, we didn't want to be one of the things with those default sites is that, hey, if you want to change the name of this site, you should actually just recreate the site entirely. And so it kind of felt like a stupid thing to be doing, really. Like, hey, here's a site that you really shouldn't be using. And so that's now gone. There is no default site. So you see no sites on this server. Now, before we get into sites, let's have a look at the server overview, which we're on here. The idea with these overviews, by the way, within the organization, server, and in a minute sites, is that we only want to give you the overview. It's not there to show you everything. It's there to give you the most relevant information to, or what we believe is the most relevant information to you. So if you've recently deployed a site, that site will be at the top. If you've done something to a site like enable a scheduler, that site will be at the top. It's the one that you've most recently interacted with because it's probably the one that you want to go back to. So we have no sites. That's fine. We can see that we have a default Forge database. We now have background processes. These were previously called daemons or daemons. And with Laravel Cloud, we got rid of that terminology. It's very system level terminology, and it's not very friendly. So we've called these background processes to match cloud and just be more easy to understand, I guess. Then we have the scheduled jobs, which now have names. So you can see that this default one where we update Composer on a regular basis is now called Update Composer. It's easier to identify that. And the same is true for where we remove these unused packages. But we do a bit of a cleanup, try and make sure that your server isn't holding on to a load of packages that it no longer needs. And then we have backups. So these are still database backups only. And we could see a list of backups if we had these configured. And then in the sidebar here, we have the ID of the server, which we could click to copy. So that's, yeah, it's now in there. The type of server, database, where it's located, the default version of PHP on the server, which is 8.4. We're running Ubuntu 24.04. I created it 3 minutes ago. And then we have some networking information. So this is now available on all server providers, all first-party integrations. So that means not custom VPS. But we have the public IP address and the VPC host and the VPC name. So we're on the Laravel managed VPC here. Now with Laravel VPS in particular, the private IP address isn't really there to be used. You want to network servers or do like cross-server communication through the VPC host, which summerbrussels.private.onforge.com. So that's like, if you are familiar with DigitalOcean's managed databases, you would be able to create a database, and instead of giving you an IP address, you would connect over a private host name. It's the same thing. All right. So drink. let's keep going. So the drop-down that we had before is still here. You can restart Nginx, MySQL, that kind of thing, reboot the server. One thing as well with Laravel VPS is that we have a new terminal. Now, instead of needing to open up like item or ghosty or command prompt or whatever, you can actually just open a terminal session from within Forge itself, which is mind-blowing. Big shout out to the team for this one. So we can click launch terminal, and I'm now drop directly into the server over SSH. And I can run things like ls. Oops, I clicked in. ls la. I think I've clicked something. Clicked. Oh, the scroll bar. Okay. LSLA. Yeah, we can resize the terminal to make it full screen. And not only can we just like run random commands like hello worldwide meetup, we can also do things that are interactive, like run htop. And we can see that this is updating in real time, and we can interact with it. It's very cool. I've got to find the right keys to quit it. So this is the terminal. The cool thing with this as well is that you might have seen it in the demo at Laracon US, is that this is actually a really good pairing tool. So if, say, Ryan finally accepts the invite to the organization, he could see that I have started a terminal session and actually join me. And I could see that he would be watching down here. And Ryan could type, I could type. It's kind of nice. We've used it a few times in production as well. Super useful to work on things and figure stuff out together. All right, that's the terminal. Oh, what a guy, hey. Ryan Chandler. So we could join. See, here's some of Brussels session. Classic live demo. All right. See if he. There we go. There you go. I'm not typing. This is all right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you. It's totally unscripted, by the way. Just, yeah, awesome. All right, let's move on. So sites would be a list of sites, but we will get to site creation shortly. Storage is where you would find databases and database backups. So here I have this database connection URL. This is how I would connect like Table Plus or Heidi SQL or whatever it is. I could copy that to the clipboard and drop it into my connection string, or I could click the opening database client, and this would actually open Table Plus for me. Super useful, really quick way of connecting to a database. Next, I can edit configurations now, just like straight in Forge itself. I could add something into here, click save. We would restart MySQL, and away you go. We really tried to reduce the amount of time you need to spend SSHing into a server. And when you do, and you're using Laravel VPS, we want to give you the terminal access so you don't need to leave Forge. You're not losing any context around what it is that you set out to do. You can still add databases. You could create a new database and at the same time create a user and password, or you could create an individual user, database user. So maybe Worldwide Meetup, to generate a password. I want them to access the Forge database. And an additional feature with database users is that we have these read-only users now. So I could create this as a read-only user, and they wouldn't be able to do any insert or deletes, truncates, that kind of thing. It's a really useful way of giving people access to a database without giving them destructive access. Let's create that user. So yeah, we're creating the WWM database user. This may take a few moments, and yeah, it's done. Database backups, so we could add a backup configuration. It still works with any AWS S3 compatible object storages like DigitalOcean Spaces. And completely forgotten the names of the other ones, but the other ones that are out there. So you could do that. We have the processes tab now where you have background processes. So the overview would show you like the first handful of them, but you would see more on this page directly. These are kind of cool as well because you can have names, you can put the command in there. There's advanced settings, so you can configure how many processes you have. It's a much nicer flow for these background processes. We have the scheduler. So again, I can see update composer, remove packages. I could add scheduled jobs just in the same way. We also have the ability to create heartbeats now. So heartbeats are, it's a new feature in Forge, which you use in tandem with scheduled jobs. So when a scheduled job, a scheduled job is meant to run like every minute, every week, or whatever it might be. And the heartbeat basically is there to say, is this job working on the interval that it should be? So if we had set up a job here to be every minute, and I monitor this, the heartbeat will expect to hear from your scheduled job every minute. And if it doesn't hear after a set period of time, which could be 1, 2, 5, or 10 minutes, then I want to receive a notification, because that means that either my job isn't running or is taking too long for some reason. And so this grace period here, this few minutes here, you might want to set that higher if you're connecting to a third-party resource, or you know that you have a lot of data to process and it might take a longer time. But if it takes more than 10 minutes, tell me, because something has probably gone wrong. You can also enable heartbeats on existing scheduled jobs. So maybe this update composer, it's really important to me that composer is fully up to date. So I could ask it to notify me when that's finished running. Heartbeats do need to be configured manually still. So once you do this, you'll get a URL. And I can copy that here. I would then need this job to actually ping this URL, this one that gets generated. It's not something that happens auto-magically. That's important to know. Next up, we have the PHP tab. So from here, we can configure PHP settings like the max file upload size, the max execution time, whether opcache should be enabled or not. And then, of course, you can install multiple versions of PHP. So let's install PHP 8.3. I can choose to use this as the CLI default. So if I was on the terminal in this server and I ran just PHP, then 8.3 would be the version. If I leave this off, then PHP 8.4 as the CLI default will be executed instead. So installing a version of PHP takes maybe a minute or two. We have to kind of build it all up on your server. Once that's done, it would be available to us. And of course, if you need to edit anything, while this is installing, I can't do that. But I could edit the PHP FPM configuration. Maybe I need to change the amount of FPM workers that PHP is using. I could change those values on the CLI. Maybe I want no memory limit or max execution time there. I can also change the pool configuration. So that's the actual user, isolated user for that. And I can also patch versions of PHP as well. So I could take this to make sure that we're on the latest version of PHP 8.4. Okay, the next one is composer credentials. So if you are using a paid package like Nova or one of like Mailcoach, for instance, by Spartsy, I would need to add credentials to my server or my site so that Composer is able to pull that package from the repository and actually install it. So Forge isn't storing any of these credentials. It's actually reading them off the server as it did previously. But maybe I do nova.laravel.com, james@laravel.com, just a random key. So if I do this on a server level, then it means that any site that I install will have access to installing Nova through this credential. I can also do this on a site level. So maybe I want to be a bit more specific about the license that I'm using. But if not, then if I don't do it on the site level, it will fall back to the server one. Nginx templates are now under PHP as well. It's more like a runtime tab than it is PHP, I guess. But I could create a new template. Looks very similar to the way it did before. Observing, this is monitoring metrics, logs, and the activity feed. So I could create a server monitor and be told I want to be notified when my disk space is more than 80%. Or maybe I know that I'm writing a lot of images. I want 95%. Let me know. So I can do that. That one I'll get installed. And then once that disk space threshold has been met, I'll get notification to tell me this server is running out of disk space, which is kind of nice. I've just seen somebody help say zoom in. Okay, let me know if that's any better. All right, the next thing, metrics. So a couple of the server providers, we haven't brought this to every single server provider yet, but a few of them, including Laravel VPS, I think DigitalOcean and Hetzner right now, can see their metrics. So CPU, memory, and bandwidth usage are now all visible in Forge itself. Now, because this server is only a few minutes old, there isn't any data to show you. But once we have that information, once the server's been running for a while, we'll start to populate this. And you can see the CPU usage might be spiking or it's okay. This is just a really good place to start getting a benchmark for how your server is performing. And of course, when there is data, you'd be able to go through over up to a month ago. Okay, logs. So we have this new code editor component, which is really nice. We can see here the Nginx access log, but we also have a list of logs that we can view: MySQL, PHP, Redis, SSH auth. So we can see who's been trying to access the server already. Any unattended upgrades. We can also download these contents, delete the contents as well. Just a really nice way of getting access to logs. Then we have the activity feed. So this is everything that's happened on this server and who was responsible for it. So this used to be called events previously. It's now activity. And I can click on any of this to see the output. So I can see what was happening when we were provisioning the server, all the way up to installing the server monitor. So I can go down and see it's been installed the monitoring agent for the first time and set some things up. Okay, so that's observe. And then finally, we have the server settings. So here I can change the name of the server. For Laravel VPS, I can also resize the server from here. So I can see the current cost is $20, but I could resize it to a premium AMD server. That's the next size up, and it would be $24, including the discount that I get for being on the business plan. You can't resize. There are limitations to the resize, just like there are if you were to do this through DigitalOcean directly. And the servers that aren't available are disabled, but you can resize that. Select that. And if I was to go through this and click save, I would be asked to confirm the difference here. And resizing a server, I should add, also incurs some downtime. We have to turn the server off, resize it, turn it back on again. So when you do this, you might want to do it in a scheduled maintenance period. All right, other settings, we still have time zone settings. We can tag servers. So we'll call this one demo. You can just click enter. Now we have this tag. I can also choose to color identify my server. Maybe let's use red because it's production, it's worldwide meetup, and it's all Laravel. So we could click save. Oops, I don't want to do that one. Let's reset that a second. Demo, click red, save. So yeah, now I can manage the tags that are available in the organization. I can see demo. We have the server's public key and Forge's public key for the Git integrations and how Forge is connecting to your server. And then another change that we made is around transferring of servers. So previously, you could go to a server, click transfer, put in the receiver's email, and then send them an invitation to accept that server. That's now different because we have organizations, and you can be a member of multiple organizations. The transfer server functionality works by allowing you to transfer servers between those organizations. Now, there is a limitation that I can't transfer Laravel VPS servers at this time. We will be looking into how we could do that, if we can do that. But for now, you can't transfer Laravel VPS. Of course, you could delete a server, which obviously deletes the server. That is a permanent action. Only do that if you know that you're not going to restore your data. We don't take backups of your server when you delete them. We can't restore them. Just like other server providers, deleting it is a permanent, undoable action. SSH keys, so I can add a key from my account. This is what I mentioned earlier when we are looking through the account settings. I have my Forge key already here, and I can add that in very quickly. Or of course, I can create a new one, give it a name, and also put it in, provide the public key, and that would be added. So that might be for a one-off SSH connection. Okay. Server network. We only have one server in this network at the moment, but I would be able to link two servers together. Maybe I have a separate database, worker, cache, and web server. I could make sure that they're all able to connect to each other. And then we have firewall rules. So I could give this a name. Maybe I want to enable my SQL 255.223. I don't know. Trying to give an IP address that someone is not going to have and then get access to this, or allow it for everybody. But yeah, we could deny MySQL access. Potentially, deny rules are now shown at the top. They are the ones that take precedent. So yeah, it's just a nicer, clearer experience of how firewall rules work. I can obviously delete that rule as well. And then if your server is also running Redis, so app servers and cache servers, you're also able to set the password for Redis. So this just adds a little bit of extra security for those Redis cache connections. All right, that's servers. How are we doing for questions? Margaret or Dan, I guess. No questions? Cool. All right, we'll keep going. All right, sites. Let's create a new site. So we made some changes in the site creation flow, and we've tried to make this as smooth as possible. We have had some feedback that we can do better in some places. We've heard your feedback. Oh, custom servers. Thank you. So you go. Yeah, custom servers. Let's go back a minute. Let's create a new server, custom VPS. So as I go through creating a custom server, it's the same flow, except for now I need to provide the IP address, potentially a private IP address as well if I want to network two custom servers together. Custom VPS must be running Ubuntu 24. We can provide the SSH port. If it's behind a NAT gateway, then I would need to provide the SSH port for that as well. And the same advanced settings are available there as well. When I do this, let's just say we want to run. Sure. When I create a custom server, I have the new sudo password in that. And then I have the instructions here for how to actually provision this server. So I would need to connect to my server manually as the root user. And then I would need to copy this command, paste that into the terminal, and let it run its thing. And as it does this, as it runs the script, these steps will get kind of ticked off as it goes. So that's custom VPS. So long as it's running Ubuntu 24 and you have root access, then Forge will provision that just like it would any first-party integration. All right, let's create a new site. So yeah, we've tried our best to make these as straightforward as possible. We've heard some feedback. We're going to make some changes, but by and large, it's a lot smoother of a process. We have these different types. So we have Laravel, projects, Symfony, Statamic, WordPress, PHP-MyAdmin, generic PHP. And we've also announced support for Next.js and Nuxt.js. So Forge will configure the PM2 process runner to actually run your site. And when you do Next or Nuxt, actually, let's do that. Next and Nuxt. I have the option to choose the mode. So I could do like a dynamic rendering of pages, or I could generate my site statically and serve that up as well. It's completely up to you which mode you use. Forge will automatically figure out how to deploy Next or Nuxt based on that mode. It's really cool, really easy to get started with. On the new site, let's go through Laravel here. I'm going to check my GitHub source control provider, and I will go with my worldwide Meetup demo. The branch is already selected for me. These will get cached, by the way. So if you don't see a repository or a branch, you can do a reload and they will all come in again. I want to connect this to my database. Let's do worldwide meetup. Nah, actually, let's use Forge. We've already got the Forge database. A new feature we've announced that goes alongside new sites is the onforge.com domains. And these are free. They are secure by default. And we will generate the domain for you. But of course, you're able to change that. So this site will now be available on wwm.onforge.com. We're going to install Composer dependencies. I have some advanced settings here. There's quite a few. We have the web directory, the PHP version we want to use. So we've installed 8.3 as well. We're going to keep using 8.4. We can isolate our website. So what this does is it spins up a separate PHP FPM process as a different user and limits the ability and the permissions for that user to write or delete files in other places. This is particularly good for WordPress sites where you're potentially installing plugins that you don't know really what they're going to be doing. Push to deploy is now enabled by default. That feels like the most modern way to deploy things. You push it to main. I want it to go straight out. Forge has now also announced support for zero downtime deployments. It's been a long time coming. For those of you that have an Envoy subscription, the number one question is, does that mean I can get rid of my Envoy subscription? And actually, in most cases, it does, but there are some caveats. Well, there's one caveat. Envoy supports deploying a site to one server at a time. Envoy supports deploying to sites to servers. Oh my gosh. Envoy supports deploying sites to multiple servers at a time, which means that you can load balance your traffic across multiple servers. Forge doesn't support that currently. It will only do zero downtime to one server at a time. So if you are using Envoy with one server, then you can absolutely migrate to Forge. And we also offer a migration tool as well that kind of imports your project from Envoy and configures Forge in the exact same way. The other thing is the shared paths, because now you've got zero downtime deployments. Your storage directory is now ephemeral. It'll be overwritten on the next deployment. So you need to make sure you set up some symbolic links there. You can add multiple paths, like storage app uploads to public uploads, or you can use the default one that we configure here. And we finally also made it possible to create a new site and install your private packages at the same time. So before you had to do this like juggling act of going to the server composer package settings, adding Nova or Flux or Mailcoach, and then going into the site and deploying it, or deploying it without installing composer dependencies. It was a mess. Now you can just do it all through the installation process, which is super, super nice. So we're going to click save. We will deploy this site. So now we get this nice step process like we get when we're provisioning servers. This will take a couple of minutes to install my project. Good time for a drink. Okay. So this is done in the installation. It's not fully installed yet. The difference here is that we haven't ran the complete deployment script. So we haven't done things like npm CI and run build. So what we're going to do now that this is installed is just click deploy, and we get taken to the deployment screen. We can see that zero downtime is already enabled, and we're going to kick it off. So we're now installing composer dependencies, which will take a couple of minutes. So while this is deploying, let's go back to the overview and explore this a bit more. So again, overviews are meant to show you an overview of the information. This isn't going to show you every deployment, every background process, and every scheduled job, but it will give you an insight into what has happened. So firstly, we have this recent deployment. I've updated the .env.example. I've deployed this just now. We have the commit hash. We can click this to go back to the deployment. I can see it was successful as well. I have the ability to create background processes on a site level now, which is really nice. It's not just queue workers. If I click this, we see the modal. I have this nice form like you are familiar with in cloud, perhaps. So you can fill this out and create an actual Laravel queue worker very quickly. You can see the command that would be running here. Or if I need to do something bespoke, like maybe running Socrates for this site, then I could do that as well. The same is true for scheduled jobs. And since this is a Laravel application, we also have this Laravel sidebar. So I could enable the Laravel scheduler. And when I do that, this scheduled job immediately pops in. And I can see that this has been created and is installed. Fantastic. So now we have our scheduler running for our application. Of course, we have Nightwatch. We have a nice Nightwatch integration now. So this will walk you through getting started. You can bring your token into Forge, update your env file, and we will configure the background process for you. We have the server ID, site ID, all of the information you need. And some other things, I can launch the terminal and go directly into the site directory from here, which is a nice bonus. I can restart Nginx, reset the deployment state and Git state if I need to. I have a list of deployments here. I can see the full list, and this gets paginated across pages. Processes will give me a list of background processes. This is the entire list, not just the overview. Same for scheduler. I have the ability to run arbitrary commands. So let's run PHP artisan about. Click enter. So Forge is going to run this command, get the output for me, and show me exactly here. So I can see the environment, we're in production, the URL is set, everything's looking good. And that the public storage directory is linked. Perfect. Of course, I could go into here. Maybe I want to copy this command. That's now my clipboard. I could run it again. Maybe I need to view the output. Is much nicer, much simpler. And if you've installed something like Statamic, then the suggested commands will be more Statamic based with the please command. WordPress will give you the WP CLI tool. We just try and be more contextually aware of your site and what it is that you're trying to achieve. We have the network tab as well. So this groups the security rules. So I could say that this is actually a restricted site. You need to enter a username and password to access it. I can also do the same with redirects. Maybe I want to redirect my about page to about us or whatever it might be. Observe. So we have heartbeats. So on a site level, we can now configure individual heartbeats, which we will do. So let's call this one Inspire. So my worldwide meetup demo already has a scheduled job that runs every minute. I want this to, this job runs every minute, and I want to be notified after 1 minute if I do not get inspired. So let's copy this. We're going to do this now because it takes a minute for it to kick in. So I have my environment variables here. I can reveal these. Set this heartbeat URL, config cache. Cool. So this is going to now go off and run. We'll do another deploy as well, just in case. But this heartbeat is now configured, and it is currently pending. So it's waiting for the first time it will be accessed. And then once it's been accessed, then it will keep waiting every minute. If it doesn't hear back within a minute of that minute, then it will go into missing, and we will get a notification. We have the site logs, so we can see people have been accessing it without all the assets. Great. And then the activity feed. So this is now the events table, the activity feed from the server, but scoped down to the site. And I can paginate through, click, we see the modal. A major change that we brought into this new version of Forge is an entirely new domain structure for all newly created sites. So if we obviously get our Forge domain where we get this free onforge.com domain, but we could of course bring our own custom domains. Previously, you would add aliases to a site. So I might want to call this wwm.com. And then that would be an alias of this onforge.com domain. And then I would need to resecure my entire site and fetch a certificate if I'm using Let's Encrypt that covers all of those aliases. Now, this is fine when you've got 1, maybe 10 domains. But we have many customers that have many domains because they run SaaS, like white label SaaS applications. And then when you start to get to a couple of dozen aliases, it starts to really slow down. And actually, it's not a very nice experience to have one domain covering everything. So now when you add a domain, let's add this, you get more control over the wildcards, the www redirects, but also each domain has its own certificate. Now, if you have a site created before the 1st of October, when we ship this version of Forge, you'll still get the same experience that you had previously, where aliases or individual domains are covered by one big certificate. But for all new domains added to sites, all domains added to newly created sites, I should say, you will have individual certificates. If you find yourself missing that entire like alias stuff, then I would recommend checking out Cloudflare for SaaS, which is built for that experience and that setup. So we've also taken the opportunity with domains to fix how redirects work. So previously, when you create like wwm.com, we would automatically redirect www.wwm.com to the non-www version. And if you put www as the domain name, then we would do the opposite and redirect it to the non to the w. It's messy, and you didn't get a choice in how that worked. So we simplified it, and you now get the option to just say, I do want to redirect, which we recommend. I want it to go to the www version, or just don't do anything. I'm not interested in any of them. I know my domain. And then once you've done that, we're giving you the DNS records now. So I need to create an A record with my server's public IP address. And that's great. Once I've done that, I can now come into here and add a certificate. Or I could see that this domain is not secured and also add a certificate. Now, I've still got the same way of doing things as I did before, where I could use Let's Encrypt. I could generate a CSR, certificate signing request, or import an existing certificate. And I saw somebody had asked a question where they were saying that with the existing certificate, did we switch these fields around? The answer is yes. It now matches Cloudflare, which is what a lot of our customers use. It's in a consistent layout now to what you would expect. Now, if I'm using Let's Encrypt certificates, which is a free service, when I click continue, I now have options for how we verify this domain and how Let's Encrypt verify the domain. So the default is HTTP 01, the current default. This is the same verification method that you used before, where Let's Encrypt would do the Acme challenge. This works, but if you do modify your Nginx configuration in any way, you do run the risk of breaking that. So my preference, and what I've done for all of my domains, is to verify them using DNS01. And the way this works is that you create a CNAME record on your domain with a value of this verify string.ssl.onforge.com. And essentially, Let's Encrypt will come to us for the verification record, and it would be verified a lot quicker potentially. So I would recommend DNS01, but DNS can be flaky. It's hard when it caches, especially on authoritative name servers. If you try DNS and it doesn't work for some reason, sorry, we're trying to make that better, more reliable. All of our testing suggests that it works really well. But if you struggle with that, go back to HTTP 01. That's what you used to get anyway. All right, I don't own this domain, so let's delete it. Now, if I want to modify my site's Nginx configuration file, I can also do that through the domains panel. We have this edit Nginx configuration here. And to support these new domains and how they are their own records, they have their own certificates. Each domain has its own Nginx configuration. So the one that we're editing here is really like the overall site and how that responds. So each domain would respond by looking at the index files, HTML, HTM, and PHP. It knows what SSL protocols are available, but it doesn't control the certificate that is there for that domain because each domain is now separated. But if I wanted to, I could come in here and add some additional things. Maybe I want to set some gzip options, custom gzip options. Maybe I want a static route that responds to something slightly differently and doesn't hit my application at all. I can do that from here. When I click save, by the way, PHP will be reloaded. It needs to reload to take that latest configuration. But that is where you edit Nginx configuration files. All right, moving on into the settings. This should look pretty familiar. I have the ability to change the web directory, but as a Laravel application, it should go into the public directory. I have the option to change framework, PHP version. Again, I can tag this. Maybe I'll just call this one site. I can also upload an avatar for this site as well. So maybe I can upload this same icon. And again, I can color coordinate it. So let's go blue this time. Click save. The avatar is now uploaded. The tags are saved and it has a color. That color is represented up here as well in this little pip. We have the repository badge, which I can edit. I could say I want the latest commit details, when it was deployed, change the design. These are really good for readmes where you want to know that. Let's go into deployment settings. This is where it gets interesting. So push to deploy, we've enabled by default. When I push to the main branch, then Forge will deploy my site for me. And then in the deploy script, you'll see these. It looks a little bit different to what you might be familiar with. So the first thing is these macros. So these are just placeholders. Create release. And this will do, tooltip's not going over there, but this will actually perform a load of things. So it will create the release directory for this commit. It will clone the repository into there. It will do any like hooks that it needs to do within that. Then we go into the release directory. We're going to install Composer. We have these little tooltips to explain what's going on here. It's going to install my assets, build this, and then we're going to run some things like optimize, storage link, migrations. We're going to activate the release, which will like promote that release to the current one. So it will do all the symbolic linking and that kind of thing. And then finally, we have this restart queues hook as well. So this will automatically restart your Laravel queues if you're running that. And if you use the Horizon integration, so if your application uses Horizon and you've enabled it through the sidebar in the overview, then Forge will know that you're using Horizon, and it will automatically run the terminate process, and then the background process will be restarted. Something really cool with this that we've done as well, which pretty proud of, is you could do Forge PHP, Artisan, and then we have like a load of auto completions for everything you could do with Laravel. Dusk is in there. We have Scout. We could delete all of the indexes. Maybe that's something we need to do. Force it. If I chose to do queue restart, I could do options. No suggestions. It's not working. Typical. But queue restart. No. Anyway, it's a lot easier to work with Laravel applications. I say that because it doesn't work. But yeah, queue restart, and then I could maybe do flush if I needed to. It's really nice. I can change the branch that is being deployed, where we gather those details from. And with zero downtime deployments as well, we retain so many deployments so that you could do a rollback, just like Envoy. It's 4 by default, but I could change that. Maybe I want 10, maybe I want 1, maybe it's just a really big mono repo full of images and assets and that kind of thing. We have a deploy hook that we can hit if we wanted to use a CI service. I can manage the shared paths from in here as well. Maybe add another one. Maybe I don't need this anymore. We also now support health checks as well. So when this site is deployed, it will get pinged from 3 regions, London, Singapore, and New York. And it will ping it to see if that release was successful. If it wasn't, I will get notified. But but this is really useful. And for Laravel applications, we already know that there is a /up route, and we will prefix that. But you could do a custom one here as well. So I'm actually going to do this twice to demo this. So we've got the up route. Let's do a deploy. So this will take a couple of minutes. Good opportunity for a drink. And now we can see as well that we have this health checks section down here. So when this bit's finished, we will ping the site, see if it is available or not. And the health checks have run from London, New York, and Singapore. We can see they were all 200. We have the response time as well. Takes a little bit longer to go from Singapore to New York. If I go back to deployments, and I was actually to hit my error page, which will give us a 500, and click deploy again, this will now change. But we can see this as well. I can hover over this deployment and actually see that it had health checks. And I can see the time that it took and that they were all okay. And then when this one finishes, it should receive an error 500, and it will tell me it goes red, it failed. Health checks don't kick off like a rollback or anything, because it might be that the health check was unable to be reached for various reasons. There we go. Your site failed a post-deployment health check. So I can open that and see what's going on. Got a 500. And there we go. It's London, New York, and Singapore have all failed. They're also available here as well. If I was in the deployments tab and I wasn't deploying the same commit, then I could roll back to it and it would just reactivate the previous release. Or I get an option actually, if I want to do that. Do I want to rerun the deploy script when I do that, or do I just want to automatically resync? So that's health checks. Let's get dismissed. And also, let's go back to being healthy again. And then, yeah, if I'm using GitHub for my repository provider, I can enable GitHub deployments. So maybe this is my production site. On the sidebar of a GitHub repository, you can see environments, and this would create a production environment. So whenever I push my code to GitHub, Forge will deploy it, and then Forge will say, hey, that was a successful deployment. And then I could keep track of that in GitHub as well, which is nice if you're trying to work in that single place. All right. I have my environment, so I could reveal these variables. We hide them by default, but you could go into here and see the heartbeat URL, everything else. I have the option to cache things, restart my queues as I save these, encrypted environment variables as well. Composer packages, I can manage them from within the site level as well. I have the option to enable deployment failure emails, deploy hooks. I could add multiple places I want to be notified from. I can enable Slack notifications, Discord, and Telegram still. And then if I had enabled Sentry on my organization, I could come in here and actually create the entire Sentry project in that organization. And we've taken it a step further than the integration we previously had. So because we now know that it's a Laravel project or Nuxt.next or whatever, we will default the instructions and give you more bespoke instructions for the type of project that you're deploying. And also you can change that as well. You might have a Laravel application as a backend, but your front end might be something else and you want that to be the project. So you could choose Astro or something else. It's very nice. So if I go back to observe now, it's been a while. We can go back to our heartbeats and I can see that it's been pinged, it's been beating. If this endpoint stops working for whatever reason, this would go red and I would also receive a notification. So speaking of notifications, we now have this whole notification center where I can see everything that has happened across all of my organizations. So my server's provisioned, finished provisioning. I finished deploying my site. A health check failed. I could click on these and actually get taken to that information as well. This is the latest deployment. I can see that it's failed. super nice. I could go in and see all of my notifications as well. And of course, I can mark them all as red. So that is organizations and site servers and sites. I think I've covered everything there. One more thing I want to show you is actually a couple more things I want to show you, but the big one that I've been very excited to show you is the new command palette. And I can access this either by clicking search or on Mac OS, Command K, or on Windows and Linux, Control K. So Command K, I have this command palette that I can access on any page, and I can start typing to find things. So I can search for my WWM server. I could look for floral winds, and I can just like hit enter. I get taken directly to it. That's pretty cool. As I open that from a server page here, I already have this context. I've said the word context a lot. We want Forge to be contextually aware about what it is that you're trying to do, whether that's create a server, manage a server, create a site, deploy a site. And we think this command palette is a really good way of doing that. We want the UI to not be overwhelming. So you're able to get a lot of things from the command palette as well. And not only can you just like interact with a site or a server that you're visiting, that you're looking at, you can actually get rid of that context from the command palette and search for something else. So let's see, search for my servers. That's all my other servers. It's called Summer Brussels. All right. So Summer Brussels. Instead of pressing enter and just jump into that server, I can press Command Enter or Control Enter. And now I'm actually looking at this server. So if I start searching for things on here, I'm gonna be scoped down to it and search for sites, which is kind of nice. And while I'm here, I could do things like create a scheduled job, create a site, create a database. Let's call that one command palette. So I might be doing something on this floral wind server where I'm like, hey, I need to create a server on this, create a database on this other server or perform an action somewhere else. I could open another window, I could open another tab, I could navigate away, but actually most of the tasks that I want to do is like open a modal, fill in a form, click create, and it's done. It's a really powerful way you stay contextually relevant to what you're doing as well. I could do lots of things in here as well, like go to this WWM. I could deploy it, so I could use this keyboard shortcut, and it's now deploying. That's gone into this deployments list. I could click into it, I could click the drop down or whatever, but the command palette is way more fun, right? There's a couple of other things as well that this could do. So I could search my entire organization. Maybe I want to search for my cache demo, so I can see all of these things on here. That's not in this organization. They're all in cache. I could also ask the documentation questions. So maybe I don't know how to create a firewall rule. How do I create a firewall rule? I could just ask that question. And there you go. Navigate to your server settings page, click the network tab, click add rule, specify your rule, click create. And it's also giving me some additional tips. Use the format this to do multiple ports. It's pretty nice. So I could now go into that server, Summer Brussels, create firewall rule, and that modal is available to me right from here. It's a pretty powerful way of navigating Forge, and it also enables us to add some nice features as well. So I might be on this Summer Brussels tab. Summer Brussels tab, and then I could, yeah. So if I'm on the Observe tab, for instance, Command K, maybe I want to SSH into this terminal. Well, sorry, server. I could copy the SSH command. Maybe I want to get the IP address. I could copy the IP address. I don't need to go back to the overview. And we also don't need to show that information that we used to show in that header that wasn't always relevant. We've condensed the UI and we're showing you what is mostly relevant most of the time. And if you need anything else, I would recommend checking out the command palette. I want the IP address. I want to get into this server. Yeah, it's a very powerful way of navigating around Forge. Now, the recipes, these are just like arbitrary bash scripts that you can run on servers. So I could create one. Who am I? Who am I? This will run as that Forge user. I also have the opportunity now to run recipes on multiple servers at once, which is a nice addition. So we'll run that on there. Don't want to receive an email. Let's run this Who Am I one. I can see that it's now running. We have a log of when recipes get executed on servers. I can see this. Let's go into it. The output is Forge. It took 2 seconds, and I was the person that executed it. So now we have a log of all the times that recipes were run, the output, that kind of thing. Super useful. Also, we have this usage tab, which, okay, cool, yeah, it's forecasted. So Laravel VPS usage is billed on the 1st of every month. And regardless of whether this server is running or you've turned it off, you will still be billed, just like DigitalOcean and Hetzner. It's not like hibernated or anything like that. If you are wanting true usage-based billing, then I would go to Laravel Cloud. That's particularly good for small projects where you really aren't going to hit a lot of traffic. So yeah, I can see that I have this server. I was messing around with one pre-demo, so I could see that it ran for, it's going to cost me a cent. And then I have this other server that's ran for a while. It's going to cost me $17-ish at the end of the month. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have teams. It's probably worth showing a team actually. Let's call this developers. I can invite members to this team, additional members, or I could do a new user. I can add Ryan into this team. I could change his role. Maybe I don't want him to be a developer. He can be a viewer. We can share the servers that this team has access to. Maybe we want to give them access to a recipe or two. Same for server providers. So again, Laravel VPS is on the organization level by default. I could give him access to that. I can upload an avatar to it. I could delete it. I could change the name of it. Something to be aware of with this organization and team structure is that right now, Ryan is in this team, so he will have access to Forge, or at least the worldwide Meetup organization through this, but he's also a member on the organization. So if I remove him from a team, because he's in the organization, he will still have access to everything that this developer role gives him. If I boot him out of this organization, he will still be in this team. No, we won't. Let's invite him in. So when he was to accept this, he would see the worldwide Meetup through these servers. So he would only see Summer Brussels. He would only see this Who Am I recipe, and he would only have access to Laravel VPS credential. So yeah, that will scope him down, and his organization permissions will be what his highest level of permission will supersede everything. It's worth just keeping that in mind when you're moving people between teams and organization members. I guess the last thing to finish off really is that we've rewritten the documentation. This is available on forge.laravel.com/docs. We have a new changelog that we shipped today, which tells you all about the new version of Forge, including all of the improvements and fixes that we've been working on since we launched it, which is super nice. We are listening to feedback. This isn't everything, by the way. This is just the highlights. We will be updating this changelog frequently. And to go along with this new structure of organizations and teams and all of these new features, we also have a new API. And I saw Adrian mention the CLI tool. The Laravel Forge CLI and SDK haven't yet been updated. We will be working on that. But this new API documentation will get you started pretty quickly. So this is all documented in code. It will stay up to date with the changes that we make on the API as well. And we've really gone to try our best with documenting the API because it's so heavily used. Yeah, I think that is everything I have, unless there are any questions.
Thank you very much, James. There are certainly some questions we'd love to get to. First off, thank you very much for a very thorough walkthrough of all the features. I've been using Forge for a long time, and certainly it can do, even before this update in recent times, it does a lot more things than it did a number of years ago. And I'm not using all of them, so it's really nice to always see someone who's created a thing or actively works on the thing to kind of walk through all its features. So a lot of stuff I'm excited about, especially with Laravel VPS. So if you're good for it, there are a bunch of questions from the community here. We'd like to just fire through some here, and we can
sure. I know I've rambled on for a while.
That's all right. I think everyone was very engaged. We still had questions coming in, so there's cool. No complaints. The first one here comes from Vitor, and I think this is maybe an opportunity to sort of outline like how does Laravel Forge differ from Laravel Cloud? So Vitor asks, is the new Laravel Forge just a cloud wrapper at the end?
No. They are very independent products that serve different uses. Laravel is in an interesting position where we have both sides of the market, I guess. We have the like serverless, as you would call it. I mean, cloud is still running on servers somewhere, right? And you also have Laravel Forge, which is very VPS. You own your infrastructure. Forge is not running on cloud, and cloud is not running on Forge. They are very different services. And Laravel VPS, although we have like the ability to create servers very quickly, ultimately it is still a VPS.
Yeah, that's awesome. This one I thought was more funny than anything. I know there's a light and dark mode option in Forge, but Hassan says we really need to vote on light and dark.
We do. I didn't show you this, but Forge has an incredibly nice dark mode. It's everything just looks so good, and like all the little pip colors when you're choosing this color for sites and servers, they all kind of go like slightly neon, and it just makes me so happy that it's so polished.
It looks really nice. Yeah, it just made me laugh. I think it's one of those questions you're never going to find anywhere near consensus on. So,
no, personal preference.
Do you have any questions over there, Margaret?
Yeah, I guess this one. So I'm kind of I can't put it on there for some reason, but Gabriel says, I'm curious how Laravel deploys or Laravel Forge deploys itself. The way that I kind of read it's more like, does Forge use Forge to deploy Forge, or does it deploy itself, or is the app hosted managed through Forge?
Yeah, so we use Forge to deploy Forge.
Cool.
So our infrastructure is managed through a version of Forge that we have internally, so that if we do happen to break Forge, we don't stop ourselves from fixing it. That'd be silly. But yeah, we use Forge to deploy Forge. And our servers are managed by ourselves. Yeah, and I think like Cloud uses our tools as well to deploy things. So yeah.
And if you're new to Forge, it seems to me that if I want to use Forge to actually deploy my code as I make updates, easiest way is what you demonstrated there, whether using VPS or otherwise. Just turn on the push to deploy feature, and everything's just going to work for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. I had one more that I saw as well from Danny. So I know when you were talking about the domains part, James, I was looking at this too while the question was being asked. I meant to say something, but for some reason I couldn't speak. But he wanted to know, the old Forge had sites page to view all sites at a glance. Is there a plan to possibly bring that back to list, I guess, all your domains that you have?
Honestly, not on like an organization level. The way that we kind of suggest that you do that now is with the command palette. Now, we have seen that the command palette doesn't always find the right site at the moment. We're speaking to our search provider to get that resolved pretty quickly. But the command palette is the best way to search for things. And in theory, you should be able to be searching for the on Forge or whatever. You probably know at least part of the name of the site that you're looking for. But that site's drop down is, I would be surprised if that comes back. It doesn't really make sense in the current UI. What you can do, if you know the server that it's on, you can go into the server, and then I kind of skipped it, but you can go into the sites tab. There would be a list of all the sites. If you have multiple pages of sites on that server, so we have some customers that have over 2,500 sites on a server, you could go onto that server and then filter it down. You can search directly on that server. But the command palette really is the quickest way of doing that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Good
so
to know.
no is the answer. I don't think so. Sorry.
The command palette looks awesome. Yeah, it looks very, very powerful, very polished as well. So looking forward to using that. I had sort of a general question here about like with the introduction of Laravel VPS, it sort of changes things a little bit in that if I was using Forge previously and I wanted to create a server, I kind of had one option. I'm going to use one of the providers I have connected, and I'm going to make that server with my provider. I now have this new option where I don't have to bring a provider. Why or how do you see, James, maybe someone reaching for one option or the other, using my own provider or using Laravel VPS? What might be the pros and cons to reaching for one or the other?
Sure. So I would always say that moving infrastructure is, and I know that Florian Beer, one of the Laravel infrastructure team, is watching, and he'll probably tell me I'm wrong. But moving infrastructure is really hard, at least in my experience. So if I'm already running my servers on DigitalOcean or Hetzner or AWS or whatever it might be, if I have more than like a couple of servers, that's going to take me a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. I might not reach for Laravel VPS in that case. Oh, he says I'm right. Thanks, Flo. Yeah, I probably wouldn't reach for Laravel VPS if I already have an existing infrastructure that it needs to be connected to. Like if I'm networking a load balancer or worker servers database, that kind of thing, I'd want to keep it all in the same ecosystem there. I have personally switched my servers to use Laravel VPS because I have a couple of sites on a couple of servers, and it was a good experiment for me. Where I see Laravel VPS really shining is where we get new customers that come to Forge. They haven't already set up DigitalOcean or another provider. In fact, they don't even know what that means. They just they know that they need to deploy their sites. They come to Forge. They can spin up a Laravel VPS server. They don't even have to think about it. It's like what size do you want? And off you go. So yeah, that's where I really see it, is like new customers, or potentially if you are spinning up, you might be an existing customer and you have a site that you want to deploy. That's kind of unrelated to everything else you're doing. Laravel VPS is a really good way to go with that as well.
Yeah, I could see it being used as a development during the development stage as well. If I want something, I want to get in front of a customer to give me some feedback, and I don't want to deal with all of the overhead of setting up a provider and a server and domain and all of that stuff. That's all kind of answered for me with Laravel VPS.
We have a few agencies that have been used in Laravel VPS to great success as well, where they just want to give their customer a Forge subscription. That's it. They don't want to be setting up server providers. They don't want to have multiple subscriptions in various places. So Laravel VPS is really good for agencies as well.
Yeah, for sure. Here's one. I think you touched on this maybe yesterday in the stream with Josh, but are there any plans on allowing more than one DB type per server and manage it? I.e., if I want to have a DB server with Postgres and MySQL, I can only manage one type through Forge.
Yes. Well, so the answer is no. The reason for this is that just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Databases are notoriously resource intensive. And if you're running both MySQL and Postgres, then you're probably going to get yourself into a position where the server is running out of memory or CPU or something, and it's because of that. So we might allow you to uninstall a database and reinstall something else, but even that's quite complicated. What happens to the existing data? How do you migrate that between server engines? Forge itself is probably never going to allow you to install multiple databases. That doesn't mean that you can't do it manually through like a recipe or SSH into the server and do it, but Forge will only allow you to manage the one that you originally installed.
Okay, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Definitely being resource intensive, but if you have to do it, yeah, you still have the option to, right? So that's always nice to know. Cool. Any other questions that you got flagged there, Margaret? You wanted to highlight?
Yeah, if I could have your help, Dan. So Angelos was asking, does restoring a previous deployment also migrate down the database?
It should be able to. If you when you do a rollback, you get some options, and one of those is, do you want to I can't remember off the top of my head now, but you could choose to run the deploy script, or maybe even specify a custom script to run. I can't remember off the top of my head. If it doesn't, send us an email, let us know that that's a feature you want, and we can absolutely add it in. Yeah.
Perfect. What I love about the community, always a way to get the answer out. That's for sure. Thanks, James.
Cool. There was a security question here. I think when you were talking some of the domain stuff available to us and some of the changes there. Is there Cloudflare or other type of DDoS protection?
So the onforge.com domains are all hosted on Cloudflare. There is no kind of configuration there beyond the orange cloud on the domain, but it might be something that we look to kind of give you access to controlling at some point.
Okay, great. That's also good to know. Yeah,
Then-
keep rolling here, Margaret. What do you got?
Yeah, so Edgar earlier in the
Mhm.
oh my goodness.
This one right here.
Yeah, can I use Laravel Forge normally in Latin America? I think you can.
Yeah, I mean,
There are no
I don't see why
geographic.
not. Yeah.
The only thing that crossed my mind when I read this question was if maybe depending on the client you're working for, there may be concerns about where the data is actually stored potentially, but there are different regions available. I think you were showing some of that
For your servers, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Forge is all hosted in America by itself. I think the only place would be if the only places that you can't use Forge are where the countries are sanctioned by the US government.
All right. Yeah, we'll keep moving. There was a question here just about database backups. Any chance we can have database backups on the growth plan? I don't know if this is more of a marketing question or not, James.
Potentially. I mean, we're always discussing like what do our plans look like? Are they fair value? What I would say is that we haven't changed the prices for this new version of Forge. Everything has stayed the same. So you can get started from $12. We might bring database backups to the growth plan. But what I would say is like we haven't done that yet, but that doesn't mean that we're not giving you other things elsewhere. The hobby plan, for instance, you can only create one server of a different provider, like custom, DigitalOcean, Headstep, whatever. You can use the hobby plan and provision as many Laravel VPS servers as you like. So the reason to upgrade to growth is to have multiple servers, but if you're using Laravel VPS, have at it, provision what you want.
Okay. I guess another question that was asked very that relates to the growth tier as well. Can people schedule custom database backups and see them when on the growth tier?
Not on the growth tier, but on the business tier, you can schedule the database backups. Yeah, currently.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lucas, for asking that question.
All right. There was one here from Adrian that ran through my mind too. Is the CLI/bash only available on Laravel VPS? Is that asking if?
I think Adrian's referring to the terminal on this one.
I think so.
The terminal,
yeah.
Yeah, it's only available on Laravel VPS at the moment.
You say that like it could change in the future potentially. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, anything could change.
That seems like a very powerful feature either way. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anything else there, Margaret?
Related to the VPS. Could the Laravel VPS usage reference the server name? I was asked by Danny as well.
Potentially. So the reason it doesn't at the moment is that if the server gets deleted, we don't know the name anymore. It just doesn't exist. So we would need to change how we do that a little bit. But maybe I will speak to the team. It would be useful. I could see why.
Cool. And I think I saw only one more question, Dan, if you had any other ones. But this one was from Robert. What are some use case examples where you would recommend Forge instead of Laravel Cloud?
Yeah, so I think they are, although they both operate in the same space, deployments, there are very fundamental differences between them. So Laravel Cloud is hyper-focused on Laravel, and we have provided, I say we, like I've had any part to do with it, but the team have focused on really specializing in Laravel deployments. That's the only thing you can deploy right now. And it does so really, really well. It's like how we would suggest you deploy Laravel applications, or like configure them and deploy them. Laravel Cloud also has the benefit that you don't own any infrastructure. It can be configured to auto scale if you need it to do that, or hibernate. It has some other like nice built-in features, but you are limited to only deploying Laravel applications, and you don't own the infrastructure that you deploy on. With Laravel Forge, it's a VPS, it's a server, and with the custom option, you could physically own that machine, or you could rent it from someone like a first-party provider. But also more than that, you are able to deploy anything. Forge has these mechanisms in place to help you deploy Laravel or Symfony or Nuxt and Next. But ultimately, you could just use the other option and deploy a Go app or a different kind of Node application. And we have hundreds and thousands of customers doing just that. Forge isn't going to give you those kind of built-in affordabilities, but you can certainly host whatever you want. You still have access to things.
Okay, cool.
It's awesome to have so many options for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Great. I had just a couple more quick questions if you had a moment there, James. Sort of high level.
Yeah, I've got. Let's
do it. All right.
Go until we're done.
The one thing that I noticed is part of this rebuild was sort of the UI makeover, and having used Laravel Cloud a little bit and Laravel Forge extensively, especially after the update, things look and feel very similar. Was there any approach across like the different teams to like share some of the UI and keep things consistent across the different code bases?
On a code level, no, nothing at all. So Laravel Cloud introduced like the Laravel design language back in February, and so that was like the new era of what products start to look like, at least Cloud and Forge. So Cloud and Nightwatch are both written with React. I sound like a granddad. React.js. React. They use React. Forge. Earlier in the year, we had the opportunity when we started to build the front end. Do we stick with Vue, which is what we were using previously, or do we also take this opportunity to move to React? And actually, we spent a long time deliberating this, but ultimately we decided to stick with Vue. It meant that we had to rebuild every component. So Forge and Cloud, aside from sharing the same design language, share none of the same code. We've all re-implemented it. I think we did a pretty good job.
Did a great job. Yeah, it looks and feels very nice. And then the other thing that kind of struck me, and I heard you talk about this maybe on the Laravel podcast, was sort of one of the initial decisions the team had of like, are we going to build a brand new thing and then have that day where we nervously cut over to it? Or do we sort of want to implement these changes? Can we do that on the existing code base and heavily use feature flags? I guess just a high level question from that whole process. Any big takeaways, any things you kind of didn't appreciate beforehand that you kind of learned to appreciate from that approach?
Oh man, yeah.
or if I was thinking of doing that, things I can do to set myself up for success with that approach.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that you have to make a decision and stick with it. Don't try and like work around that decision later on. And so it meant that like a lot of our time, so ultimately our decision was that we were going to use a feature flag. And on the 1st of October, we went into maintenance mode and we ran some migrations that enable that feature flag for everybody. Prior to that, though, the like legacy version of Forge that everyone had been using was actually essentially a compatibility layer onto the new version. So we had refactored a lot of the code to the action pattern and away from a big repository. What it meant is that we could battle test units of code, like adding a background process or enabling scheduled jobs in this new format on our legacy version. And so because we committed to this feature flag and how we were going to refactor a lot of stuff, we were able to actually test these things and have a pretty good launch. Like everything worked. And the benefit of those feature flags was that we could get our early access users on, including the Laravel team, but also 300 members of the community around the world, different types of customers, to test Forge itself in that new state. And I guess it was a lot of work, but it was also probably a lot easier long term than having a completely different version of the application. But if we had tried to fight against that decision early on, then I think it would have been very difficult to be as successful as we were.
Yeah, definitely for me, a very real problem that a lot of applications people and developers can deal with. So it's nice to see the approach have some success. So you kind of know I can maybe lean on it in the future. So thank you. I think that's all I have. Margaret, did you have any other final questions or thoughts before we let James go?
I actually saw one more question from Rob. He wanted to know, do you get to keep the legacy plans?
Yeah, we haven't done any pricing changes. If you are on like I think it's $10 a month was a plan from years and years ago. That plan is still there. It will still work. You get the same features that you had previously. We might revisit this in the future. Like it's been years and years, but right now you get all the same stuff.
That's awesome. No loyalty.
Great. Well, once again, James, thank you very much for joining us on your Laravel Forge media tour. Appreciate you walking us through, and I definitely learned a lot of stuff that I can take away and use every day in my everyday usage of Forge. So, any final departing thoughts for you before you head off?
Yeah, two, I guess. One is thank you so much for having me. I know Margaret and I have spoken previously about me coming on, and I'm really glad that I've finally been able to make it on. And two, we are listening to your feedback. We've had a hugely positive reception, but also, I'll be honest, we've missed some things. We've not done as good of a job as we can in some areas. That doesn't mean that we're not going to fix those things. Sometimes you just can't see the trees for the forest, or the forest for the trees. I always get that the wrong way around. But if you let us know, let the support team know, or ping me on Twitter, send me an email or whatever, we will add it to the backlog. We will get it fixed up. We are listening to all of the feedback, and we really appreciate everybody's patience. Like, Forge is a very big project with lots and lots and lots of users. It manages millions of sites and servers. We're trying to make that work across all of those bizarre configurations from 11 years ago to 1 day ago. So yeah, please let us know. Give us the time to get that fixed.
Awesome. Appreciate all the efforts from yourself and the team on all of this. And so remember, folks, you can catch more flies with honey, right? So I think the team is very willing to take helpful suggestions. So reach out with those. Awesome, James. Thank you once again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And hopefully talk to you soon.
Thanks so much,
Thank
James.
you so much for having me.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.
Oh. Here we go. All right. And before we head off, I would just have a little couple of bookkeeping items here from Margaret and myself. So, Margaret, without further ado, let's have a look ahead here.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. So for our next meetup, you can join us on November 4th. We're going to have our guest speaker, Matt Stauffer. So very excited to have him. So please tune in November 4th at 12 p.m. EDT. And to sign up for our giveaway, we're going to throw up that QR code again. So if you've missed out on it, this is for a one-year subscription to any JetBrains IDE. So thank you, JetBrains, for sponsoring. That contest is going to be open today until October 14th. And if you have won, you will get an email notification. So feel free to scan that QR code and enter our draw. Awesome. And so to stay connected with us, you can follow us on X. So you can follow us at Laravel WW Meetup to stay up to date with what we got going on. And then you can also follow us on Blue Sky as well, again, at Laravel WW Meetup, or we'll put any notifications on there. And then if you want to sign up for our email subscription list, and so you can follow us on the official Meetup website. So you go to meetup.laravel.com. You can check out all the information about our Meetup there. And then thanks again for watching us on YouTube. Check out the Laravel YouTube channel for a lot of great content. And yeah, hit that subscribe button if you have not done so yet.
Awesome. And yeah, once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks, James, for joining us and walking us through all the exciting updates in Laravel Forge. I guess a small community note, if anyone's heading to the official Livewire event, Wire Live, at the end of this month, myself and Margaret and some others from the vehicle team will be in attendance. So look forward to maybe seeing you there. And if not there, then we'll see you all at the next stream with Matt Stauffer at the start of November. So thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Outside of that, just one more announcement. You're going to be at Longhorn PHP. I will be there as well. So I will see you there. I think like that one comes in 2 weeks. So we'll see you there. And thanks for tuning in. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. But thanks so much, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
See you.